Our smiles, magical, whimsical, infectious. Our smiles, sunshine from our hearts to our lips. Our smiles, a non-verbal shout-out of love, of light, of levity. Our smiles defy words and deliver the essence of joy. Our smiles, warming like a kiss, embracing like a hug, melodic like a song. Our smiles, a flash of buoyancy, a spirit of hope. Our smiles, expression of grace, gift of generosity, assurance of gratitude.
Hey, isn't that beautiful? Our smiles. It's part of our joy. It's part of who we are. I'm Gwen McKinney, and I'm the creator of Unerased Black Women Speak. I'm your host this evening. And I am just so excited because March is an important month. Well, first of all, it's the month I was born, but it's also Women's History Month. And as far as Black women are concerned, we are affirming that Black women make history every day. And we make history through the ages. What better way to really push out hashtag Black Women Make History 365 than to announce, I've got a public service announcement, Unerase, backed by popular demand, is relaunching our Primetime 55 Plus directory. And the Primetime directory is uniquely designed for Black women who achieve, who are accomplished, who are badass, even in the face of carrying the triple burden of racism, sexism, and ageism. This is for Black women 55 plus. If you are already in the directory, we would like you to do an update because we launched it a year and a half ago. If you are not in the directory and you are 55 plus, come on in. We welcome you. So I just wanted to mention that because that is really, really an important way that Unerased celebrates Black women. We are for lack of a better description, a nonprofit comms shop that shapes narrative and develops content and tells stories for, by, and about Black women. So with that, speaking of telling some stories, we're going to be toasting today. I love toast. We toast two phenomenal sisters, Jotaka Eaddy and the incomparable Barbara Arnwine. I am excited because I know both of these women. I've known them for decades, and it is just an honor, a thrill, a joy. But before we do, because we do a lot of content and products, we have another video to celebrate Women's History Month. And before we do that, I want to tell you, audience, if you're there in Facebook and you want to post, who is your favorite ancestor who inspired you Black woman ancestor. As my friend Jotaka says, there's a stadium of ancestors. But just pick one and post it for us. Tell us who your favorite ancestor is. Throughout the evening, our show, I want you to also post messages to our two tribute toast people who were toasting, our toasties. To Barbara and Jotega, I want you to toast messages. If you know them and you love them like we do, feel free to send a message. This show is being recorded and it'll be for posterity. But meanwhile, back to the ancestors. Who's our favorite her story maker? Well, April, why don't you let it roll? We went to three of our bold and unbossed sisters to ask them, and let's see what they said.
So much more done together than we can apart.
With passion, purpose, and control.
She said what it was going to be, and where it was going to go.
My favorite history maker is Dr. Dorothy Irene Height, who I was honored to say I could call her my mentor, my Sarah, my leader and friend. And what did I learn from her was the power of we, the power of coalition, and how we can get so much more done together than we can apart. And also she taught me as an African American woman that whenever I have to show up somewhere, I bring all of that with me, my whole self with me, and I represent all of that.
My most important her story maker is Harriet Tubman. She took people from point A to point B to save their lives at the expense of her life with passion, purpose, and control. Eradicating Black breast cancer and helping Black women is my purpose. It's a God-given purpose. It's what I'm supposed to do. And I think that was what she was supposed to do. She knew that she was very spirit-led. And I know this is my God job. She had a God job and I have a God job.
My favorite Black woman history maker is my mom, Beulah Jordan. The reason why she inspired me is because she never held back. She said what it was going to be, and where it was going to go. And I held on to that my entire life.
Hey, wasn't that nice? I love it. And I thank you, Alyssa Davis and April Perry McKellar, for your wonderful talent in putting that together. Speaking of talent, I'd like to now call up to the stage, to our virtual stage, Barbara Arnwine. Barbara Renee Arnwine. Isn't it Renee? You're muted. You're muted.
Biblically Ruth.
Ruth. I'm sorry.
You know our parents. You know our parents. All of us over 55 know our parents.
Yes. Well, welcome, Barbara, to the Unerased Facebook Live event. We're so thrilled to have you, and we are looking forward to chatting. First of all, I just need to tell the audience here. Barbara, I didn't even bother looking in the bio because I know Barbara's story, okay? And I had to tell off stage in the green room, don't talk too much. Let it all be a surprise to her. Well, Barbara has a history that is amazing. She is, in many ways, Barbara reminds me of, what was that, the Ever Ready Bunny, or the just constantly goes. But I met Barbara in the early 90s, and she wasn't too long at the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. And I had a public relations with a conscience firm, and Barbara hired me to help her to do the work on the Civil Rights Act. Back then, that was like 90, I think it was 92, 93. But then that was the beginning. In 1995, I traced across the world with Barbara to China, to Beijing, to the International Conference for Women, the World Conference for Women. She thought it was important to bring a delegation of a couple of dozen US Black women. And one of the focuses was Black women and the law. And that was the same title of a groundbreaking conference Barbara had that same year. And Barbara, I can say you laid the basis for Unerased, Black Women Speak, because the focus of the conference was lifting up Black women whose voices were very important. And some of these sisters, like Kim Crenshaw and a whole host of them, who we now know, Barbara opened the door. There you go. Look at that. She has the, thank you, Barbara, for showing that.
Someone just sent it to me yesterday.
Wow.
In the
wow.
mail.
But the Energizer Bunny never stops, ceaseless in her determination and her vigor for justice, whether it's mounting a campaign for the survivors of the Katrina hurricane in New Orleans, or setting up, establishing, and launching a national hotline for election protection in the creation of, came from Barbara, 800 Our Vote. That started with her. Recently, she's been back and forth to Brunswick, Georgia, supporting the family of Ahmaud Arbery, who, as you all know, was brutally murdered by white racists in 2020. And the Arbery family sends their love, appreciation, and dedication, saying that Barbara turned on a light for truth and direction for them and their family. So it's not by accident that Barbara, after she left the Lawyers Committee, she was nowhere done. She started an organization that speaks to who she is, a Transformative Justice Coalition. Let me stop here. Let me shut up, because I could go on and on. So you see she crying. I told her I was going to make her cry. Okay. Very good, Barbara. So tell us a little bit, dear heart, about the work and how does women's history strike you, given all that you have done through these years?
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Gwen. That was so sweet. And of course, you know, I love the Arbery family, and just have them be part of this is so amazing. I just want people to know that, you know, I'm so honored to be honored during Women's History Month. And it means a lot to me. My birthday is coming up on this coming Tuesday. God has blessed me to see 72 years.
Woo! Who knew?
Yes. And so I am really, really looking forward to, to celebrating. And I, really want people to know that that Black women throughout history have defied the odds. We have shown people what the impossible looks like when done. We have been amazing, leaders. I just love me some Harriet Tubman. I tell people when they talk about being in this fight, how do you stay in it? How do you not burn out? How do you not give up? I say you got to have deep in your soul your spiritual sister who walks with you, who talks with you, who, when you are sitting up there moaning and groaning because something's gone wrong with some legislation, a case, the White House, whatever, the beauty of it is that all of a sudden you think back about Harriet and what she went through. And you think about Sojourner fighting for her son Peter when they stole him and sold him down south. You think about all the women who have walked before us, and I just thank God for the blessing He's gave me. He's put a blessing on my life to do this work. There's people who come up to me every single day and say, I went to school to be you, but I couldn't afford to be you. I had to work, in this kind of job that denied me my expression, my ability to fight for civil rights, etc. And I look at them all the time and I think about it. And I thank God that He allowed me to persist. He allowed me to make, the first year I came out of school, folks, I thought I was making some money. I made $11,000. I owed in loans almost double that amount. And so it was hilarious, that you come, these ways, Quinn, and I couldn't do it without my sisters. Everything you talked about, that 800 number, Anita Earls, who is a justice, in North Carolina, she was the one who walked in my office after I said, "Oh, we got to do something. We got to come up with an 800 number. We got to do." She walked in the office with that number. Her brilliance. I mean, it's been, God has given me you and so many other brilliant, just gorgeous sisters. I mean, it's like, I don't pearls, right? But, He strings a pearl necklace for us. Of all the beautiful, of all African necklaces, of all the beautiful people who are in our lives, who bring us joy, support, criticism when we need it, and and hard truth. And I appreciate that. And it's hard sometimes, but I really have been blessed to have had a really fulfilling life. Today, my mom passed, as in August at 91. And, so I was lucky, everybody, to have her all those years.
Yeah.
And you used to tell me how lucky I was. And now I understand, right?
Yeah.
Gwen, that first morning I got up after she passed and looked in that mirror and said, I'm a motherless child.
Yeah.
That was deep and it was hard.
Yeah.
But today I was going through some of her effects, all her left. And I was going through her clothes and her hats and all her stuff. Oh, girl, there were some tears. Because she paved the way, right?
She paved the way.
She paved the way. And it was hard. She paid the price for that. And but she paved the way because she knew she wanted her daughter to be her civil rights baby.
Absolutely. And she was very proud of you, Barbara.
No.
Your mother was so proud. Dr. Arnwine lends her intellect and strength to those who don't have or understand. Even when she lost her own dearest mother, she did what her mother would have wanted her to do. Advocate, pray, and advocate some more. We all love Dr. Barbara Arnwine. I know, Barbara. See those tributes coming, sis. Sisters who are watching and joining us, some of you, let those fingers do the walking here. I tell you, Barbara, we could have a really robust conversation about the living history that you have made and the connection with you and so many other sisters. You and Elaine Jones were my go-to troublemakers, and we team and plan and just really do it. And that is so important, that we make history every day. Yes. And with that, it's really wonderful for me to reach out to some of my younger colleagues. And I saw a woman, about 20 years ago. Well, actually, it was even longer than that. She came to my office and she was pitching me to work on a project. And I was like thinking, I don't know, you don't have any money, and this is hard, and I'm gonna have to do a lot of work, and I don't have the staff. But she just kept working, kept plugging away. Holly Holiday, isn't that a lovely name? Hey, Holly. And so I have years past. Holly's all grown up now. She's grown. And we reached out and connected and have brought her into the Unerased family. And she is helping Unerased to not only craft stories and generate products, but to connect to civic engagement. How are you, madam?
I'm wonderful. I'm just glad I get to be a part of the Red Lipstick crew with you all. This is awesome.
Yes. Holly has some things to say about Barbara. We can, you know what? Let's save it. You know why? Because Jotaka Eaddy, who is my younger sister, one day Jotaka told me something, folks. And she said, Gwen, I remember, I've always admired the work you've done, the communications work you've done, especially around the death penalty. I was watching you when I was in middle school. I'm like, what? What you saying? But it's true. She was in middle school.
That's deep.
Come on, Gwen, accept your elder status here. Yes. But this young woman then, young girl then, and now a young woman has not stopped. Barbara, you have cleared a path for Jotaka, and Holly, who is going to talk more about her partner in crime. But before we do, because Jotaka wanted to be here live, but she's in Peru, and she's in a rural area, and she realized that the Wi-Fi was going to be too weak. And we decided to bring Jotaka to us, the wonders of video. So April, my dear colleague who makes it all happen, even though you all don't see her, April, let it roll. We had a conversation yesterday or Monday with Jotaka. Let's hear what she had to say, or Tuesday, or Wednesday.
I think the first public advocacy I engaged in was participating, not fully understanding what I was seeing, but knowing that I felt something magical, was a strike by workers at the local plant in town, Wellman Industries. Ironically, years later, I would find out that strike was led by Cleola Brown. And she, at the time, was working nationally, but came in to help the workers in my small community in South Carolina because she has South Carolina roots. And Reverend Jesse Jackson came to my small town of 1,000 people in one red light. And I remember being at the rally. I remember the workers who were striking. Many were members of my family. Many were members of my church. I remember being able to carry water to them and just thinking like, this is magical. And that was, I think I may have been maybe 8 or 9 years old when that happened. So when I was in the 7th grade, my middle school teacher gave us a project to talk about the issue of the death penalty. So I was always a debater. And so I debated on the side that we should have the death penalty, largely because it was a conversation in my town. There was someone whom was from my small town that was on death row. His name was Donald Pee Wee Gaskins. He was a notorious serial murderer. And I was all for his execution. When I began to do research as a part of my paper, because I had to write a paper on the opposing viewpoint that I took in class. And so when I wrote this paper, I was like, oh my goodness, Furman versus Georgia, McCleskey versus Kemp. And it was this book called U.S. Supreme Court Series, which was made for middle school kids, which I think is one of the best books I've ever read. And it really broke down for me what was happening with the death penalty. And from that moment on, I was like, I want to abolish the death penalty, and this is what I want to do in my life. And so that's when I got started in middle school, organizing other young people to learn about the death penalty. I found out about Amnesty International and just started doing organizing in my small town to get people to understand that we needed to do our part to help abolish the death penalty. Bringing people together across sectors, it's something that I believe over the years is not only, I believe, an imperative for us to be able to move forward, but I think that it's necessary in our work. For me, it brings me joy because I understand and know the power of community and the power of our collective. I've always been taught by my parents and by the strong leaders around me that your individual voice is very strong, but our collective voice and power is even stronger. And so it's always been important to me. And I think through the years, all of the opportunities and the places and spaces in which I've worked and operated have allowed me to build relationships. And for me, relationships, they have to be more than just transactional. They have to be transformative. And I believe when you build rich, transformative, deeply rooted relationships, it allows you to then to bring people together based off of those experiences and relationships. I feel that on any given day, and particularly on any given Sunday, that any Black woman who shares values of impact and justice and human rights can go and open that box and be a part of that. The future for Win with Black Women is, how do we continue to grow it? How do we ensure that Black women across this country know that it is a place for them? But more importantly, how do we begin to take the power that we have built over the last 2.5 years and combine that with our ability in communities to support Black women-led organizations, to support Black women that are running for office, and most importantly, to speak very collectively and very unapologetically in support of Black women, and also denouncing racism and sexism that often takes place towards Black women in our country.
Thank you. So I'm not sure whether to start with Barbara or Holly. I guess we'll defer to Holly as the partner in crime. Call them co-conspirators in the axis of change. Tell us about Win with Black Women, and tell us about Jotaka. And then Barbara, I want you to weigh in too.
Okay.
Let me just say, I was sitting there and I was thinking about remarks that I had written, and I didn't even need to see that video to know that what I would say about her would be right on target. So rather than just repeat that, let me say this. There are a few people who just stand out. There are a few people in this world that when they come in the room, they just stand out. Barbara knows about this because she's one of those people too. But Jotaka certainly is our next generation iteration of women like Barbara. She believes in the connection. I was so glad that she said that, because sometimes Jotaka could be a little bit modest. So you really got her on a good moment. I was so excited to see that. So excited to see that. And what she has done with Win with Black Women, that network, I say our collective network, is now more than 4,000 women across the country. We are also including and reaching out to sisters internationally. I know that speaks to your heart, Barbara.
Oh, yes.
And we really are figuring out how to move and work collectively. And while Jotaka certainly is our convener and our leader, what I most love about her is that she is the connector most of all. And she is not only connecting us one to another, but she is also not letting us forget our history and our foundation and the places where we have come, so that we are destined to go to new places with new ideas and new vision, and not repeat some of those things, but really learn from the sisters who started this path. Some of which are not with us anymore, and many of which still surround and support us. And I would say to know Jotaka is to understand that she really understands the power of connection.
Yes.
Yes.
And Barbara, what say you?
Well, I met Jotaka when she was probably in her first or second job. And she was so young. And I remember talking with her when she was still, when you're in those first jobs, you're trying to figure out what's the rules, how do I do it the right way. And she was going through those manifestations. And then she did something that sisters do. She saw herself. She understood her capabilities. And she said she did something really unique. She said, I'm going to go out and create space. I'm not just going to fit into the existing job market, the existing roles that people think people like me ought to be in. She has been so amazing, because when you look at Women with Black Women, that is created space. That's not inherited space. That's not donated space. That's not been told to space. That's not somebody's old box. That is me. And all the sisters with me, I'm going to carry them just like Harriet carried them, into this new generation, into this new time of struggle. And she knows that in each generation, in each time of struggle, you got to create a new weapon.
Yes.
You got to have a new capacity.
Absolutely.
And I love that about her. She created her own unique, amazing space, and she's still at it.
Yes.
Still at it.
And connecting people across sectors.
Yes.
The corporate, the tech, the entertainment,
yes,
the
yes,
advocacy, the Divine Nine. I mean, a whole range of women who generally would not necessarily come together, but they come together, and she's a glue. Now, speaking of glue, Holly is our glue. Holly is our toast maestro today.
Oh.
And she has the role. Oh, she got real stuff. I got water. It's sparkling, but Holly is going to toast Barbara and Jotaka, and it's in whatever way she feels needs to be stated. We'll let you, each one gets their own toast. And audience, everyone out there in Facebook and YouTube and Twitter land, please make note. Okay, to you, Holly. What's the toast?
Well, before we get started with the toast part, I want to start the way you have set us up to begin, Gwen, and that is really with gratitude.
Yes.
I am so grateful, Gwen,
yes,
to you and to the entire Unerased Black Women Speaks
yes,
team for what you do to ensure that Black women receive their flowers now, that we are making the history and telling the history, and for giving me the opportunity to express my appreciation for the impact of these two amazing women. And I'm going to speak up personally, because they actually have personally impacted me in very different ways, both because of their significant contribution, but most importantly, for their love and commitment to advance Black women,
yes,
our families, and our communities. every day. So I'm going to start, raise your glass, with the legendary Barbara Arnwine. She said earlier, defying the odds. And boy, does that describe her in so many ways. Over the years, our paths have crossed many times, our physical paths. But what you may not know, because we didn't actually meet this time, is that in 1990, I was a CBCF intern for a member of Congress.
Yes.
And at that time, while we definitely had female congressional members, and you will know this well, very few women, Black women advocates leading organizations coming up on that hill, providing testimony, bringing expertise. And your work, groundbreaking and inspirational to me, on the 1991 Civil Rights Act. I remember when it passed.
Oh, yes.
I remember how much energy and time. And I remember thinking, as the member that I worked with, who happened to be male, spent a lot of time talking to the boys, which was great. But it was something different, especially for a young Black intern, to see you walk through the door. And at that time, you were one of the few in the civil rights space leading an organization. And I remember right then and there that really became a foundational piece for me.
Yes.
Because I knew I could be a lawyer, which I ultimately became. I figured I might be able to do a little advocacy. But what you showed me is that I could truly be a pursuer of justice.
Wow.
So for that, I thank you. We have had so many other times when our paths have crossed. I was just thinking, I'm looking at your beautiful hair, and I was thinking, before we had the Crown Act, you and I were on WHUR talking about hair discrimination.
Yes.
And I think to myself, boy, she's just a warrior for justice in all the ways. And so for that, for you opening that window to a life that I try to lead every day, not just as an attorney, not just as an advocate, but the most important thing, as a pursuer of justice, not just for me, but for Black women who really were allowed to see themselves in that role. I want to say you have inspired me, and cheers to you.
Cheers to you.
Thank you so much.
And so Holly gets to.
So grateful.
We get to toast also.
I don't even know if you knew that. That you had done that.
That's quite
yeah.
You never know.
You never know how you
never know.
Who would know? All these years later, I would get to share that with you. So
look at God.
When Gwen called me, I said, "Ooh." I didn't even tell Gwen that story.
Look at God.
Look at God. And look at what he has done for us and through us.
Oh, girl.
So
we
have toasted Jotaka without lifting our glasses, but why don't we just get that done?
Well, let me do this. Let me say one thing about Jotaka, if you don't mind, Gwen.
Oh, I don't mind at all.
Okay.
Don't mind.
So Jotaka has a very special place in my heart. She is truly my sister. At heart, as you have heard from her story, she is a global citizen that connects people. But she doesn't just connect them for the sake of connector. She's not a networker. She's a connector. And she's a connector because she connects people in power.
Got it.
And that makes her a little bit different. You will see, like you shared, Barbara, you couldn't have said it better. I couldn't have said it better. She has a vision.
Yes.
She has a vision. And the vision is not only to expand her territory, but to expand our territory.
Talk.
And I want you to know that if what she has done to date is an indicator of what's possible, I, for one, am excited to be with her along the ride. And I know if she was here, she would say, she's excited to have women like you and Gwen to be a part of the journey. And so to Jotaka, I salute her. And again, I salute you. Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm going to turn it back to Gwen and ending as I begun with gratitude to you, Gwen, for allowing us to give these wonderful women their flowers and express our joy for the work that they have done and for the sister friends they have been to all of us.
Thank you, Holly. That was wonderful. And we've done a lot of tributes today. If you all saw in the opening Our Smiles video, all of those sisters, some of them whose names you may not know, they are all in many ways part of our inspiration. Then we went to Melanie and to Ricky Fairley and to Sharon Richardson.
Yes.
And then we are going to, hey, Selena, how you doing, girl? Thank you for leading the environmental justice fight. We didn't talk about environmental justice. Standing alongside us. Yes, Selena. Thank you, ma'am. She's calling it out. There are other people out there who want to put things on the record. I think April's going to post some of them. But as we wind down, someone asked me, who is my inspiration, the ancestor?
Yes.
I would say Fannie Lou Hamer.
All right now.
And Fannie Lou inspired so many people despite the rigors and the challenges that she endured. So we did a little video and we just redid it a little bit more.
Yes.
Tweaked it. Yes. And so I would like to close saluting Barbara Ruth Arnwine and Jotaka Eaddy.
Yes.
And in the spirit of Fannie Lou, I want the audience to take a look. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I have one last public service announcement. And that is April is Poetry Month, right? And folks, we would love you to submit your poems.
Oh, okay.
And we will post them on our fabulous Unerased website, Poetry Corner, and we may read Marcy Thomas, who will be the host, may read some of your poems for our Facebook Live tribute to Poetry Month. So if you can, I think April's posting, go to Unerased BWS. There it is. BWS.com Poetry Corner for details and for the submission form. We welcome your poems. We have a beautiful space on our website. Visit. And the poems include everyone from a poem about Ma Rainey to Gwendolyn Brooks to Audre Lorde to B. Richards, to people who you may not know, but their words are just amazing. So with that, I'd go to Fannie Lou, who is my shero. Watch, take a look, folks. Fannie Lou Hamer, a tribute. Fannie Lou Hamer was both extraordinary and every woman. By the time she was 6, she had joined her family in sharecropping. Though stricken with polio, Fannie, the youngest of 20 children, could bale up to 300 pounds of cotton a day. Fannie, the adult activist, would stare down peril, shot at, beaten, jailed, threatened, and once told by a Klansman, "We will make you wish you were dead." Not only fearless, Fannie was a collaborator across generations, gender, and racial divides. She launched Mississippi Freedom Summer with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. She joined white women formed the National Women's Political Caucus, and worked with the National Council of Negro Women to launch the Pig Project, providing protein to impoverished sharecroppers. And to support rural economic development, she started the Freedom Farm Cooperative. In 1964, she led the Mississippi Democratic Freedom Party to the DNC convention in Atlantic City. They were demanding to be seated as delegates. You'll hear more about that in a moment. That same year, Fannie Lou launched a campaign for her state's open U.S. Senate seat, 5 years before Shirley Chisholm's successful congressional run. She was a trailblazer. Her advocacy was unrelenting, but so were the maladies that sent her to an early grave at 59. During a surgery for removal of a uterine tumor in 1961, without her consent, she received a hysterectomy. This widely practiced forced sterilization of Black and Native women was labeled by Fannie Lou a Mississippi appendectomy. In 1963, she endured a savage physical and sexual assault by Mississippi police, beaten so badly that her eyes were swollen shut. Long-term illness and trauma followed, including blood clot in her left eye, kidney damage, and other injuries that never healed. In the 1970s, faltering health and so-called nervous exhaustion slowed the activism. She died in 1977, reportedly suffering from breast cancer and hypertension. The trail she blazed for full citizenship has been followed by successive generations of Black women into this century and hopefully way into the future. We stand on Fannie Lou's shoulders.
Yes. Beautiful.
Okay.
Beautiful, touching, chilling.
Yes. And so I guess, thank you, April. We have another cut on that, and it's on our YouTube page. But folks, hashtag BW Make History 365. Check us out. We'll be firing away between now and the end of the month. And I want to thank Barbara, Jotaka, Holly, Melissa, April, Antoinette, Linda, Levi, Alex. That's our team. And I want to thank all of you who have tuned in. So thank you. And Barbara, we need to get you on Primetime 55 Plus. You definitely are a badass 55 plus. Okay? We'll talk about that later. But thank you all, folks.
Just thank you, Gwen. You know, people don't know just how amazing you are. Your excellence, your commitment to sisterhood, your just generosity of spirit. You're just beautiful.
Well, thank you so much.
So grateful.
This is about you tonight, dear. But it's about all of us.
Right.
So thank you. And to everyone for the rest of this night and hopefully for the rest of the week, have light and love. Signing off.
Thank you.